All right. So, hi everyone. Thanks for joining us today for the first webinar for 2021. In the spirit of reconciliation, we acknowledge the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and their connections to land, sea and community. We pay our respects to the elders, past and present, and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders. My name is Nell Thompson and I'm the Secretary of the Australian Institute of Animal Management, and I'll be helping with the technical side of the webinar today. I've been on the AIM committee since 2013 and I'm also the coordinator of the National Getting to Zero program. The Australian Institute of Animal Management, or AIM as we call it, is the national peak body representing local government animal management officers. The AIM committee consists of a wide range of professionals engaged in the various aspects of animal management. AIM seeks to support those engaged in the business of animal management and the function itself by providing training and information, opportunities for networking and collaboration, and by encouraging the use of best practice policy and practices. AIM understands the significant pressures placed on local government and not-for-profit rescue and rehoming service providers when working in the companion animal management space. We welcome new members and people can join via our website at www.aim.org.au. So to the agenda for today. Once I hand over to our presenter, there will be around 50 minutes of presentation and around 10 minutes of question time once the presentation is concluded. The recording of this webinar will be accessible via our website to all members to watch at any time. We're going to ask that everyone mutes themselves during the presentation unless our presenter indicates otherwise. If you have questions, you can start putting them in the chat box and we'll get through as many as we can at the end of the session. If you have very quick questions that relate to your understanding of the content, we'll try to get to them during the presentation. And if you have more questions or we don't get to yours during the question time, you can send a message to our Facebook page and we'll get to it that way. As always, please excuse any working from home background noises that may filter through. I'm quite surprised my dog hasn't started barking already. We're very grateful to have Dr Joy Verrinder here with us today. Lots of you know Joy. She's the Strategic Director of Animal Welfare League of Queensland and its national programs, the National Desexing Network and Getting to Zero. She currently works with local and state governments, veterinarians and other animal welfare organisations developing and providing programs to prevent unwanted cats and dogs. She has a PhD in animal ethics and master's degrees in strategic management and professional ethics and governance. Over the past 40 years, she's been a teacher and a deputy principal in several secondary schools and involved in numerous animal organisations, government and university animal ethics committees and state and federal government advisory groups. So over to you, Joy.
Thank you very much, Nell, for that introduction. And hello, everyone, and welcome. Thanks for taking some time out of your busy day to be part of this webinar today. So Nell's explained my history of working as Strategic Director with the Animal Welfare League of Queensland. I've been doing that, working with lots of stakeholders since 2002. And we are based on the Gold Coast, the second largest council by population in Australia, where we've developed and used effective strategies to work towards zero euthanasia of healthy and treatable cats and dogs. We also, as Nell said, run the National Desexing Network. So the aim of this presentation today is to help you understand how the Cooperative Desexing Program works and hopefully to include it in your budget as a very easy and important and beneficial program for preventing unwanted animals. So, working with local governments for many years now, we've seen a transition from reactive, punitive approaches in animal management to more proactive, preventative approaches, helping to get animals home rather than impounding them, and working with communities to identify the reasons why residents struggle to manage their animals and providing support, which can often include desexing support and support services. The importance of desexing became very evident to us way back in 2001-02 when we started to introduce strategies that would expand the availability of desexing in the city of Gold Coast. And this graph shows the effectiveness of a huge focus on low-cost desexing. So you can see from this diagram that we used to take in over 4,000 animals a year back then. And since then, the numbers have been reduced substantially with euthanasia right down to 10% of all incoming Australian surrendered animals. And here are the figures. So you can see that we've had a 50% reduction in intake of cats and a 50% reduction in euthanasia of a 90% reduction in euthanasia of cats in that period of time. Just to give a bit of perspective, this is only provisional data at the moment being gathered for a published paper by Diana Chua, hopefully this year, where she's been trying to gather statistics from all over Australia for the number of cats coming into pounds and shelters in the last couple of years, and also the proportions that are being euthanised. So you can see there that in Victoria, 9.1 per 1,000 residents intake, 3.3 euthanised. New South Wales, 4.6 intake of cats per 1,000 residents and 2 cats euthanised per 1,000. Queensland, 7.6 and 0.8 euthanised per 1,000. And just as a comparison, it's not a whole state, but it is a city of Gold Coast, which is the second largest council in Australia and a population of 600,000 people, intake of 3 per 1,000 and 0.3 per 1,000 euthanasia. So the prevention of unwanted cats and kittens through low-cost desexing, preferably before 4 months, and it being well promoted, accessible and affordable have been our emphasis. And we'll just give you a little bit of a history of how we started that before we launch into the reasons for developing the Cooperative Desexing Program. So in 2001, we developed a community veterinary clinic, which was focused on providing low-cost desexing and other services. This enabled us to offer the Last Litter program with free desexing of mother cats for anyone surrendering kittens to the shelter. And I know that there are a lot of communities out there and councils who do offer that sort of a program now. It also enabled us, with our staff very familiar with desexing prior to 4 months, to be able to desex the community's animals before 4 months of age, and also encourage other vet clinics to do this through seminars on the safety and benefits. And we also provided hands-on practice for vets and trainee vets from the universities in our community vet clinic. So hopefully they will become more familiar with changing from the traditional 6 months to before 4 months of age. We also had a lot of proactive shelter policies, which enabled us to get more animals desexed, such as large numbers of foster carers to hold mother cats and kittens until they're old enough for desexing and the mother's milk to dry, and encouraging and assisting potential surrendering owners to desex and keep their cat rather than surrender them, and creating an appointment so that we could address issues and prevent surrender if possible. Some councils in the US have invested in veterinary clinics on site to desex and treat their shelter animals and also provide low-cost desexing for residents' animals. However, few councils in Australia have invested in their own community veterinary clinics. We understand that's a big leap, and so there's few that employ vets to offer low-cost and free desexing to the public. So we decided to encourage local veterinary clinics to offer low-cost desexing programs, meetings with vets to explain the issues of overpopulation and numbers being euthanised, and promoting veterinary clinics who are willing to provide low-cost desexing for just 1 month, perhaps, to all pet owners to encourage desexing in the city of Gold Coast. The year after, we decided to expand that to start to develop a network of vets across Australia and encourage vets across Australia to offer low-cost desexing, particularly for pension concession card holders. And we realised that we needed to expand that as much as possible so that people could find low-cost desexing. Most of you will be familiar with National Desexing Month, where we send out posters to every vet, council and organisation in Australia to encourage promotion of desexing. And that means that we have built a lot of desexing across Australia. However, we realised this wasn't enough. Vets by themselves couldn't fix this. Councils needed to also subsidise desexing programs for cats in the interests of more effective animal management to reduce intake and prevent wandering abandoned animals rather than have to manage them after they were born. Hence, we started the Council NDN Cooperative Desexing Program on the Gold Coast in 2010 and started to expand that out to other councils from 2016. So I'm now going to explain how the program works. So the costs are shared by owners, council, local vet clinics, and the National Desexing Network. It's an ongoing all year round program, low cost, and targeted to help residents in need in your city or shire. And this is a picture of a woman who lives in a caravan park in a very small mobile home, who very proudly displayed her desexing certificate after being given the opportunity of having her animal desexed at very, very low cost, which was affordable for her. The focus is on cats in this program because of the more prolific breeding rate of cats than dogs and double or triple euthanasia rates in most Australian states, and also a greater proportion of unwanted litters of kittens and puppies in pounds and shelters. However, the NDN Cooperative Desexing Program is available for dogs where you have dogs who are neglected or lots of extra puppies and untrained and wandering stray dogs. However, dogs are more expensive to desex and require a greater council contribution. So the council is currently involved in the NDN Cooperative Desexing Program, and I believe a couple of those have registered for this presentation today. They include 4 councils in Victoria, 4 in Queensland, 3 in New South Wales, and 1 in South Australia. The budgets for these councils range from $1,000 for a very small rural council to $20,000 currently. One of the largest councils in Australia has provided $57,000 in 1 year in the past. Budgets depend on size of population, community need, and the capacity of the council to afford it. Obviously, the more funding that's put into these programs, the quicker the results. The value in our NDN program is that all funding goes to desexing subsidies for residents in need, and it's not used for promotion or management cost as other programs sometimes do. So who is eligible? Well, we believe it should be eligible for all residents in need. So in these council programs, it's available for pension concession card holders, people on low incomes, people with large numbers of cats, so they can't afford to desex them all, and residents willing to desex and adopt stray unowned cats. Currently, in the participating councils, the majority of them have this regime of costs. So the owner pays $55 for a male cat. The council subsidy is $45, and the vet agrees to receive $100 for a male cat desexing. Owners pay $65 for their first female cat and $50 for subsequent cats, with the council putting in $85 and $100 respectively, so that the vet always receives $150 for a female cat. So participating veterinary clinics agree to receive this set reduced payment that still covers all their wages because we try to make it as fair as possible to maximise the number of cats desexed with limited public funding, but also stress to vets that they also benefit because over time, with reduced oversupply of animals, there's fewer requests for euthanasia and also less demand for people asking for free services because they can't afford to care for the veterinary care of all the animals that they have. Some councils are offering ineffective desexing programs, although they help a little bit. For example, offering just a $50 voucher towards desexing to the owner and not doing any other part of the program means that some vets charge $250 to $300 to desex a female cat, and residents on low income still have to pay at least $200, plus an extra $70 to $100 if the cat is pregnant or in season, which many residents in need simply cannot afford. An example of a Victorian Council's AVA desexing subsidy program with reasonable discounted vet prices but costs still too high for residents in need, is below. Obviously, a higher council subsidy per cat is needed. Other councils have prohibitive voucher conditions, which can limit desexing and make the program less effective. For example, a maximum of 2 vouchers per household. Pets must be vaccinated and have a current vaccination certificate. Just this extra price, which could be $70 to $100, can mean a person on low income cannot afford then to desex their cat. And if your pet is an older female, an extra charge applies. So in our council NDN Cooperative Desexing Program, we have consistent conditions for participating vets. So low income earners can afford to participate. There's 24-hour pain relief included, no requirement to vaccinate before desexing. If cats are pregnant or in season, owners are not asked for additional payment, and instead vets claim an additional $55 from the council Desex fund for that extra service the vet are providing in desexing a pregnant or in season cat. We also need to think about whether or not low cost or free desexing should be provided in our communities. The NDN Cooperative Desexing Program has asked residents to pay a small proportion of the desexing cost, which is usually affordable from their pension or low income, that is $55 to $65. This is to maximise the number of cats desexed with limited public funding. People who access the NDN programs generally indicate they are happy to pay $55 to $65. In fact, they're usually delighted. However, there may be others who are not contacting us who are not willing or able to pay this amount. Therefore, if council can afford to cover the whole vet payment and still desex large numbers of cats, particularly in targeted low socioeconomic areas, providing free desexing to people in need or all residents is worthwhile, and it is possible in our program. For example, one council in our program, it has a higher socioeconomic demographic, but it's decided to provide free desexing to all residents and cover the full cost of the veterinary charges using the NDN Cooperative Desexing Program to increase their uptake. Where we know free desexing is needed from people who contact us is particularly for semi-owners, people who've taken in a stray cat or two, which may have been pregnant and may end up with 10 to 12 kittens and cats. They want to prevent further breeding, but are unable to pay for 10 to 12 cats to be desexed. If these kittens then breed or are given away undesexed, the problem just gets worse. Even if councils collect those unwanted kittens, they then have the cost of impounding them, killing them, or rehoming them, which is much more than the cost of providing a desexing subsidy. Another area where free desexing is needed is for people who are willing to help organise desexing and rehoming to reduce colony cat numbers. They need support with free desexing as they are providing a community service and reducing council workload. The benefits of targeting free desexing to owned, semi-owned and unowned cats has been experienced by Banyule Council in Victoria. In 2010-11, 1,004 cats were impounded and 578 killed in a population of 130,000 in Banyule Council. That was 58% being euthanised, which is not dissimilar from the original euthanasia rate that we had back in 2001-2 in the city of Gold Coast. A free desexing program started targeting one postcode of 3 suburbs with the largest number of nuisance complaints and surrenders. In 2012-13 and 2013-14, an average of 40 cats were desexed in each year in these postcodes. More desexing was then done with greater funding provided by council over 4 years from 2014-15 to 2017-18, an average of 140 cats of residents in need desexed per year, targeting this postcode but also offered to any resident. Since 2018-19, fewer cats are needing desexing, with an average of 75 cats now being desexed per year. In total, councils have paid to desex and microchip 780 cats free of charge to residents. In 2019-20, there are only 152 cats impounded, which is 1.2 cats per 1,000 residents, and 24 euthanised, which is 0.2 per 1,000 residents. Jenny Cotterill, who manages this program, says that the majority of the work that she's currently involved in is with owned, semi-owned or unowned domestic cats in urban, semi-urban environments. She does a lot of work going out door knocking or actually approaching people who need support and providing transport and cages if necessary. The residents who have participated in the free cat desexing program in Banyule Council have stated that it was purely due to costs that they had not already had their cats desexed. In fact, the fact it is free is why they have been participating, and some of the residents have 3 to 4 cats desexed at any one time. So I'd like to just pause at the moment and see if you would be happy to give us some feedback. We saw this as an opportunity to actually get some feedback from councils participating in the webinar today, or if you're watching this later, please, my email address is at the end of this presentation, so please record your thoughts and send them on, because we really do need input from councils to make the most effective programs possible. So your thoughts on subsidising desexing and microchipping to help semi-owners, that's people who feed cats that they don't perceive they own, in order for them to take ownership of unowned cats, similar to what Jenny has been doing in Banyule, and that our council program also is willing to provide, which means if people phone us who are semi-owners, they've taken in a stray cat, they are eligible for the program. Do you do this now? Do you provide support for semi-owners? Would you like to offer it to semi-owners? And do you think your councillors, your managers would support it? Just give you a couple of minutes, if you can, to throw something in the chat box with your responses to that about supporting semi-owners, question 1. If you can put question 1, that would be good, or semi-owners and your comment, would like to support or currently do support, or council don't support it, your councillors. It would be great to have that feedback. As we know, there are also programs in place that are happening regardless sometimes of legislation, which aims to help carers to reduce the numbers of unowned cats who are living in breeding behind a factory or on a university campus. Many carers are compassionate and will put a lot of effort into reducing cat numbers if they're only given desexing support. This has been shown to be successful in Australia. A 9-year program in an Australian university campus reduced a free living cat population from 69 to 15 cats. During that 9 years, 19 campus-born cats were desexed and rehomed, and a further 34 immigrant cats who joined the resident colony were either rehomed or a very small proportion disappeared after they were desexed. Institutional support for the program was strong because of a reduction in complaints from campus staff and students, minimal institutional costs, and the improved health status of the remaining cats. All cats are desexed, microchipped, registered and fed on a daily basis. So it'd be good to know your feelings and thoughts on the subsidised desexing of small colonies of unowned cats in urban areas. I recognise that in some states this is not currently directly legal, but can be perhaps provided as a project. And so presuming you have state legislation allowing this, it would be interesting to know whether your council would be interested in doing such support programs. And these could be accommodated in the community desexing, cooperative desexing program. So we just put question 2, providing subsidised desexing for unowned cats, whether you think your council would support it, whether you think it's a good idea. Any comments? Very much appreciated. So then this slide shows a combination option that we've developed for this year to offer to councils, and we would love your feedback on this as well. So we've streamlined the male and female cat so that they would pay for the first 2 cats of $50, whether male or female, and then more than 2 cats, we suggest free for the 3rd and 4th cat, with the council paying the full $100 or $150. Many people who take in a stray, for example, have accidentally had litters of kittens, or they have several cats who've wandered into their yard or workplace. And if free desexing is offered to those extra cats, it makes it much more amenable for them, because often they need a couple of weeks to save up for the first 2 cats. And if they leave it too long, then the extra cats end up getting pregnant, and then the cycle continues. So being able to do the extra cats as soon as possible is important. So once again, your feedback on this would be very much appreciated. So do you think your council would prefer low-cost desexing, where residents in need contribute $50 to $65 towards the desexing costs, and council pays the balance of what the set amount the vet receives? Do you think your council would support free desexing? Are you interested in the combination, or do you think that would be more accepted by your council? Your feedback in the chat would be much appreciated. Some councils include microchipping in the NDN Cooperative Desexing Program as well. So in our program currently, the owner pays $5, the council subsidises $25, and the vet agrees to a reduced price of microchipping while being desexed of $30. NDN finds that cat registration is often a barrier to desexing, yet desexing is more important as a strategy for reducing numbers of cats than registration. Some councils require microchipping before or at time of desexing, which enables tracing for registration payment. This means people on low incomes may avoid desexing because they're wary of having to pay an additional, say, $50 registration on top of the desexing payment. Also, those wanting to desex multiple cats or kittens are unable to afford an additional $50 for many cats registrations on top of the desexing and microchipping costs. For this reason, NDN recommends councils provide low-cost free microchipping and free registration, even if it's only in the first year for those states that have registration that has to be paid annually, and particularly for people who are providing a community service, so semi-owners who are taking in a stray cat or 2, desexing and microchipping them and taking ownership, and those managing a cat colony and seriously desexing and rehoming kittens and reducing the numbers of unsocialised cats in the community. While NDN is not advocating this in or beside areas where any wildlife species are particularly vulnerable or threatened, in an urban or suburban area which is built up with habitats mainly supporting non-native animals, this can often be the best process for reducing the numbers of unwanted cats. So, your capacity to provide free cat registration. I know different states have different requirements. It would be really interesting to get your thoughts on your council providing free registration, even for the first year, where it's an annual payment, so that they can get over the initial cost of providing a small amount towards the desexing if you haven't decided to make it free under a cooperative desexing program. Now going to move into describing the benefits to councils for funding a well-structured cooperative desexing program. A document that explains these benefits is available both on the NDN website and on the G2Z website. So first of all, we've already seen the reduction in the overall numbers of cats coming in the initial slides in this presentation. The number of kittens coming into the City of Gold Coast Pound and Shelter has halved between 2005-06 and 2019-20. So you do really see a reduction in the number of kittens all needing to be impounded or surrendered. So this is the Gold Coast kittens, including all stray and surrendered kittens. And as you can see by the blue line, a real reduction in the numbers of incoming kittens, which has kind of stabilised since about 15-16, and a significant reduction in euthanasia rates as well. So that only a very small proportion of kittens now are euthanised for irremediable health conditions. I'd also like to compare cat euthanasia rates. So a study done by Professor Jackie Rand on strategies to reduce the euthanasia of impounded dogs and cats used by councils in Victoria showed that across the councils, in 79 Victorian councils, The average euthanasia rate, the mean euthanasia rate for cats was 48% in 2016-17. In comparison, the Gold Coast had a 48% euthanasia rate back in 2005-6, and it's now, by 2016-17, it was 8%, which is a reduction in 41% as a result of sustained low-cost desexing provision that is well promoted and offered to all residents in need. Another huge advantage for councils is the cost savings of funding a desexing subsidy rather than collecting, holding and euthanizing or rehoming a cat. So it costs, as a conservative estimate, on average $220 to collect, hold a cat for 4 days and desex it. Hold a cat for 4 days and then kill it at the end of its 4-day period. And for 14 days, much more than that, about $420. The average desexing price, averaging out between male and female, and the fact that some females are pregnant or in season, is around $75 in the Cooperative Desexing Program for each cat. So the savings by preventing just one unwanted cat, of not having to impound that cat or the litter of kittens that it produced, is about $150 if it only has to be impounded for a short period of time, and nearly $350 if held for 14 days. And if a council put in just $22,500 to desex 300 cats in 1 year, there would be a saving of almost $50,000 or over $100,000 for those pounds that need to hold cats for longer. The savings are even more significant if councils are involved in rehoming cats. So it costs an extra approximately $400 to desex, microchip, vaccinate, worm, and care for and treat cats waiting till they get a home. And the savings are therefore about $550 by just desexing one cat, rather than having to rehome a cat or a kitten that comes from that cat. The savings of investing $22,500 to desex 300 cats then go up to about $170,000 and well over $200,000 if cats have to be held longer in the pound. Another great benefit is positive animal management leads to greater satisfaction for both animal management officers and also for the community. So if you go to our website, you'll see a presentation by Todd Stosey, who reported a complete change in attitude and the way they managed cats and dogs with their program, and how much of a difference it made to their community and to their animal management officers. And we also noticed that in the city of Gold Coast, with people very willing to and very supportive of our programs. To help people comply with desexing and breeder permit laws, we believe state governments and councils should support those in the community who have limited capacity to comply. So currently the ACT, Tasmania, Western Australia, South Australia and New South Wales have legislated requirements to desex cats or pay for an annual permit to keep an undesexed cat. This was the catalyst for us introducing a cooperative desexing program on the Gold Coast back in 2010, because we just introduced a breeder permit system which required desexing of kittens prior to sale or transfer, and therefore we felt it was important to provide support for those people who couldn't afford to desex their cats, so they didn't have to become a breeder unwittingly. It also reduces nuisance issues. So fewer unwanted animals born obviously means fewer stray wandering animals, and this means fewer issues for non-pet owners as well as pet owners. Cooperative desexing programs also prevent unowned or feral cats in urban areas. A South Australian study of 2014 showed that 46% of owned cats are not contained to their property at all times, and less than half of owned cats are desexed at 3 to 6 months. This means that there's undesexed wandering cats that can breed and contribute to unowned cat populations. As preventing unplanned breeding reduces the numbers of wandering unowned cats, it also reduces wildlife predation, which is a benefit to both environmental and animal management departments in council. We therefore believe cooperative desexing programs could be co-funded by both departments. Another great benefit is the community can and will help if a more ethical approach is used. Compassionate members of the community are keen to adopt or rehome stray and unsocialised cats if they have access to low cost and free desexing. Many of these frightened cats can become rewarding companions. For example, in this image here, you can see we had an unsocialised kitten that was brought in with a trapped, unsocialised mum. And we had a mum with two little boys who wanted to desperately help this kitten. We were very nervous and fearful of this, as we were worried that the kitten might harm the children, or the children might harm this fearful kitten. But in the end, she was a fantastic mum who trained her children to be patient and kind, and the cat ended up sprawled out on the couch and relaxed and happy. Another great benefit is that with NDN managing all the calls, the voucher issue and vet payments, animal management officers can visit residents in low socioeconomic areas. They have more time to do this. Can visit permanent caravan parks, housing estates, older members of the community to offer vouchers and help get cats desexed and get them to the vet, providing carriers and transport. Can also encourage semi-owners who are feeding stray cats to take ownership with free and low-cost desexing, microchipping and vet registration, and support people who are willing to desex and care for a colony of unowned cats in an urban area till their numbers reduce. So I'll just take you quickly through now the process of developing a cooperative desexing program. So first of all, if you're interested, NDN provides a summary of cooperative desexing program and benefits to councils documents to present to managers and councillors to help them understand the benefits of funding a desexing subsidy program in the annual budget. As explained before, these documents are on the G2Z and NDN websites. NDN develops and manages the NDN Cooperative Desexing Program free of charge for councils. So first of all, once funding is approved, NDN invites all local vets to participate. As long as at least one vet accepts, the program can proceed, and council then pays the budgeted amount to NDN to enable payment of subsidy to the vets. We then provide and prepare and provide promotional flyers with your council logo for councils to print and distribute in the community. NDN also promotes on the NDN directory and through social media, and councils promote on their website and social media. NDN also provides a media release for councils to add your own quotes for the program launch. Residents then phone NDN on a 1300 number to determine if eligible and are offered a choice of participating vet clinics. Desexing vouchers are sent to residents with an expiry date of 1 month to encourage them to desex as soon as possible. Cat owners make the appointment with the chosen vet clinic as usual. Owners give the voucher to the vet clinic at the desexing appointment and pay their contribution. Vet clinics return the vouchers and claim form at the end of the month to NDN for reimbursement using council funds. NDN also keeps records and provides reports on the numbers desexed to councils. We also encourage councils to gather data. It's very important to assess progress in each city and shire. As a minimum, we encourage councils to collect intake numbers and the proportion per 1,000 residents that are brought into the pound or shelters in your area. Euthanasia numbers, percentages, and per 1,000 residents as well, and nuisance complaint numbers are also important to gather and compare over time. So in conclusion, what's great about proactive cooperative desexing programs? Well, apart from the reduced costs to councils, they provide positive and ethical outcomes for local governments, owners and carers in need, non-owners, vets, cats and dogs, and wildlife. We would love to know of any existing desexing programs you currently offer, or of your interest in starting a cooperative desexing program. The NDN directory promotes all desexing programs run by councils and organisations around Australia, and cooperative desexing programs are offered when there are no effective ongoing existing programs. So you can register your interest in a cooperative desexing program or list your own desexing program for promotion through the NDN website. Just go to that site, click on Get Involved, and then click on Council, and there's a form to complete. or you can contact me directly. So thanks very much for your time. I'll turn on my video now and hopefully be able to answer lots of questions. If you haven't had a chance to put much in the chat box yet, please do so now. Thanks, Nell.
Okay, that was fantastic. Thank you, Joy. So much information there. Let's we'll just stop sharing the screen. Oh, no, not share my screen. Joy, can you just, oh no, it's all right. I think I've worked it out. Have you stopped sharing your end, Joy?
Pardon?
Can you just stop sharing the screen on your computer?
Yes, I can.
We've got lots of questions here.
Okay.
So I don't know if you can...
questions at the moment, but...
Can you see the chat box now? You should be able to see it if you click
Q&A.
down the...
No,
click down the bottom onto chat box or chat.
Okay.
Yep.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah,
okay,
it's fantastic.
So we're starting at the top?
Yeah, let's start at the top. We have the first question from Sandra, stating that council funding is very limited. Very true, especially on the back of COVID, where a significant amount of funding has been and continues to be provided for relief and recovery. Has this program been pitched to state government?
Okay, yes, it absolutely has. Whenever possible, whenever we get an opportunity, we present to state government forums or talk to state government. I'm not sure which state you're in, Sandra, but just before Christmas, for example, I presented to Animal Welfare Victoria's state government, local government forum, and that led to a couple of councils coming on board. And they have informed me, for example, in Victoria, that some funding is coming up shortly where councils will be able to apply for funding, which they could then, if they wished, apply to cooperative desexing programs. So that would be fantastic. We would love all state governments to provide incentives to councils to start to get council desexing programs up and running. So if you want to forward me any contacts of people you would like me to talk to in your state government, I'm very happy to do that. We also, sorry, I've forgotten what I was going to say there. The other thing to remember is that you can start small, although obviously the more funding you put in, the quicker the results are. Even desexing some cats is better than desexing no cats. So even if your council can just put in a small amount initially, some councils start, for example, with $2,000 or $3,000, and then when that funding runs out, they put in another $2,000 or $3,000. So that's also another option if you can't provide $10,000 or $20,000 upfront.
Just to add to that, I think the key there would be to target those resources. So if you had a particular area where you experienced a lot of intake of cats, you could potentially go and talk to the residents in that area and target your smaller amount of spendings there. Leslie asks, is Boroondara, which is in Victoria, involved? And do we know if we have a cat kitten problem in Boroondara? I have an opportunity to meet with the mayor. Joy, are Boroondara involved?
No, Boroondara are not involved. It would be very interesting if you could speak with the mayor and take information about the program and perhaps give them our contact details. That would be fabulous.
And we have Kate from Ballarat referring to your question 1, Joy. We do what we can, but probably need to start capturing more data to show our managers.
Yes, absolutely. Data is so important because then you can compare it with other places and show that there is a need in your community. And so just even the simple data I put on that fairly late slide in the presentation of intake data and then worked out as a proportion of 1,000 residents in your city or shire, as well as euthanasia data is helpful as well. And also the number of nuisance complaints you're receiving, because they'll all be impacted on by offering a community cooperative desexing program.
Data is definitely one of the areas we all need to work on. Donna is referring to your question 1, Joy. Currently, we don't offer it, however, could potentially in the future.
Oh, great. So that was the question about offering support to semi-owners. Fantastic.
So
thanks,
Donna.
Donna.
Might like to get in.
It's great to have that feedback, because it's just good to know whether or not councils are starting to realise it's important to do this, and whether you feel you can get the support of your councillors and managers to do that.
So Donna, get in touch with Joy. And we have Jelena from Yarra City Council referring to question 1. Yarra City Council participates in the NDN program. However, we do not offer this to semi-owners, as we try to discourage people behaving in this kind of activity, as the feral cat population in Yarra is quite large, and obviously we do not want to encourage the growth in feral cat populations. We actively engage in education and offer various levels of support to residents in need, including encouraging surrender of unwanted cats.
Okay. Unfortunately, by taking that approach, sometimes it can end up counterproductive for 2 reasons. One is that a lot of these people are very compassionate, and I know myself, when I lived in a small regional centre in Queensland, I was thinking about it last night, I had 3 cats come to my house and adopt me. And people who are compassionate will find that they don't want to turn those cats away. They're obviously not well, sometimes they're not well cared for, sometimes they are. I had a kitten adopt me that just landed on the doorstep. So people will not turn those cats away. So unfortunately, if they get 1 or 2 of those cats, they end up pregnant, as I said in the presentation, and then they end up with 10 cats. And there's no support with desexing. Those cats are going to continue to multiply, and they will not stop feeding them because they care about those cats. They also won't want to contact council because they will be fearful that with an oversupply in the community that those cats will be euthanised. So it's far better to reach out and provide that support, get those cats desexed, help them to take ownership. I know it's a program that Jenny from Banyule has particularly focused on, and we do provide that support through our program because we get calls from people like that all the time.
Absolutely. So Sandra asks, are there any studies that demonstrate how many cats would need to be desexed annually to achieve a significant reduction, and how many years would it take before we see the results?
Okay, so it depends on many things. The degree of socioeconomic disadvantage in your community, the size of your population, the number of cats you already have, and your policies and procedures and so on. But a lot of research is saying about 30 cats per 1,000 residents need to be intensively desexed, usually by, if possible, targeting the most in need suburbs, the suburbs that have very a lot of cats. Research has also shown that low socioeconomic suburbs usually have more cats, not because they don't want to desex them, they really do. I'm involved with the Community Cat Project in Ipswich at the moment, which is a lot of the low socioeconomic suburbs there. And people are coming forward by the droves because they've been offered free desexing, when in actual fact, they haven't been able to in the past. So 30 cats per 1,000 residents is suggested as a bit of a target initially. And once you get stuck into doing a large number over the first couple of years, you can usually slow that back.
That's fantastic to know. It's a good goal. All right, we have Sam from Bawbaw referring to question 1. We're in discussions regarding allocating budget to NDN, which we intend to commence this year. Yay! Fantastic. Hadn't considered semi-owners and would have to give it further consideration. Obviously would assist in reducing the instances of uncontrolled breeding.
Fantastic, yes. Sam. That's really good that you're thinking about helping the semi-owners, because as I explained before, if you neglect them, then it's a big part of the issue. While they only, research has shown they only make up between 3 and 10% of the population feed a cat they do not own. In the preliminary data we're getting through from the low socioeconomic areas of Ipswich, it's showing that nearly half of the people who come forward to desex cats have semi-owned cats as well as their own owned cats. So they're just compassionate people. They've ended up with not only their own cats, but probably a friend or a neighbour has said, oh, I've had this litter of kittens, what am I going to do with them? And they kindly take on another kitten, and they're the people that need support.
Absolutely. All right, we have a response from Kate to question 2. Great idea, would be a project we could run if we had manager support.
Okay, so Some of the things that we do is, apart from the 2 documents that I mentioned that are on both the G2Z website and the NDN website, is that if you can provide contact names, or you would, in the past I have actually visited councils and spoken to whole councils, and these days with COVID that might be easier on Zoom, but would be very happy to address whole council meetings if necessary to explain the benefits, or managers.
It's a great option. Leslie asks, what states have legislation that allow release and return?
Okay, currently in most states in Australia, they vary a little bit, and some have less requirements to follow up on cats that are wandering. So it does allow greater freedom in desexing wandering cats that are just living freely. But yes, it is quite limiting at the moment with state legislation. But through the research project that Jackie Rand is heading up at the moment, permission has been gained from the state government in Queensland to allow a research project where cats can be released back and monitored in colonies. And I know that the City of Melbourne, I think it is, in Victoria, is thinking of experimenting with a colony, desexing those as a research project as well. And so things are starting to develop, and opportunities need to be developed by councils asking the question of state governments and asking, can they run a program even if it's only as a trial?
That's a good point. We have Emily's response to question 1. My council currently doesn't support this. Stray cats have been raised within our community recently. There are a lot of people who do not bring cats in for fear that they'll be euthanized. So offering options to the community would be great.
Yeah, absolutely. So if we can help you in any way, Emily, please get in touch. Maybe we can find ways to speak with your council about understanding how it's going to save them money, as well as benefiting them by reducing costs, increasing community support, and all those things that are in that document.
We have a question here from Donna, in response to question 2. Small colonies are apparent in our shire. I would be interested to find out more on this, as I'm not savvy with legislation applicable to Victoria about release and return.
Okay. So, Nell, you might be able to sort of explain this a little bit more than I, since you live in Victoria.
Yeah. So there are options there, Donna. I know that in some municipalities, people have sought an excess animals permit and waived registration fees, for example. So if there's one particular person who's feeding a larger amount of cats, so the legislation can be you can work within it and still comply. If you want to contact Joy or myself, we can certainly talk to you about the options there, but it is doable, even as tight as Victoria's legislation is. And yeah, we can satisfy all of the needs there. So
yeah,
we have Angie here from
Thanks,
City
Nell.
of Darwin.
I'll add to that too, the way around that is that if you can persuade semi-owners to adopt those cats, then that sort of overcomes an issue as well. Yeah. Sorry, Nell.
Yeah, absolutely. Angie's responding to question 1. Highly supportive on officer and manager level, which is great. Only area of concern surrounding enabling people who are feeding unowned cats is policy bylaw restriction around total number of cats. So Darwin, it's up to 3. My concern is around requesting people to choose up to 3 cats, which they can become an owner of. Legislation within the NT does not allow TNR strategies.
Yes, and I do understand, because we've found exactly that from a couple of other councils since I first started to share the idea of making it free for the 3rd, 4th and 5th cat. And that's why I was really keen to get your response to this, because a lot of councils do have a limit of 2 cats per person. But in actual fact, as we know from people who take in stray cats, that's quite counterproductive to not desex all of the cats that a person has. If not, they'll give away undesexed kittens, which just continues the whole cycle again. So getting them all done, the mother cat, all the kittens before they're given away free, and making people aware that that option is available can make such a difference. So if you need any help to try to convince your councillors or your managers about still allowing desexing, while still not necessarily encouraging them keeping more than 2 cats, you can still allow them to desex more than 2 cats.
Good point. We have Jackie responding to question 1. I'm currently trying to get council on board with the program. We have an RSPCA managed pound facility at the moment, and we've run 2 subsidised high volume desexing programs with relatively limited success, which in my opinion did not specifically target the required animal owners. Many non-participants of the program advised of their inability to access the program due to being an online booking program and payment via credit card, making it prohibitive for many.
Yeah, and that is one of the sticking points if you only provide it at a short period of time, because unfortunately a lot of people have busy lives and they don't have the opportunity to get organised for short-term programs, and so they miss out. And of course we know cats breed pretty much all year round, so we can't really afford to not offer this program all year round. So I do hope you can come on board, Jackie.
All right, we have Kate responding to question 3. She's from Ballarat and says A or C is more likely.
Right, so A was either the resident contributing a small amount, about $50, or a combination where they would contribute the $50 for the first 2 and then the 3rd, 4th and 5th may be free. So that's great. Good feedback. Thanks, Kate.
And we have Donna responding to the same question saying A would be more likely to be accepted by their council.
That's good to know. Thank you very much for that feedback.
We have Jelena again saying Victoria does not have any legislation that stipulates a cat cannot wander at large. This comes down more to each council's provisions under a council order or cat curfew program. Yarra Council does not have any cat curfews and will return cats home only if they're registered.
Right, okay. So that gives you an opportunity to actually provide support for desexing for all of these groups we've been talking about, Jelena. So that would be fantastic if you can. And returning them would be fantastic as well, and offering that support.
Sam from Borbor to question 3, untested as yet, but likely to prefer A or possibly C.
Okay, good feedback. Thanks, Sam.
Emily says RSPCA New South Wales are currently offering an expression of interest for an NDN desexing program. Just wondering if this is the same program.
No, that wouldn't be the same program. So I know that it could be a new program RSPCA New South Wales is offering. I know that they have had the core program, which is similar to the one that we were talking about earlier, that's offered a couple of times a year, where they go in and offer intensive desexing for a few days or a week or so, I think. I'm not an expert on it, but that's what I have heard. But it isn't the same program, no.
And we have Kate responding to question 4. If legislation allows, we would do a free rego for first year.
Fantastic. That sounds great, Kate, because at least that gives them the leeway then to save up for the registration in the second year while they're maybe, you know, trying to cope with contributing a little bit towards the desexing and the microchipping, unless you can offer free. That's great.
Jelena is saying that Yarra City Council is currently working with Lost Dogs Home and providing free registration to new adoptions. This is A, addressing the registration aspect, and B, encouraging adoptions of cats which are desexed as opposed to fostering a stray in the community or feeding the stray cats and aiding in the proliferation of the cat colonies in Yarra.
That's great. Good on you for offering free registration, Jelena. That's great.
Sandra says Moreland is in its 3rd year of offering a free desexing program, which includes picking up and dropping off of the cat, microchipping and free first year registration. However, this is capped based on funding.
Yes, so that is fantastic again. It'd be great to know about that program so we could, I'm not sure whether it's already on the NDN site, on the directory, but Sandra, if you could send us the details either through the NDN Get Involved site or just contact me and let me know. We can put that on the directory, which would be fantastic. Obviously, funding is always an issue for councils, but the fact that you're doing that is really, really good. Well done.
And Sandra comments that 300 cats desexed at a cost of $22,500 relies on vets or other agencies reducing their cost to $75 per cat.
No. So what I'm talking about there is the Cooperative Desexing Program. So it comes out at about $75 per cat for the council to pay. Then the owner puts in the $50 or $65. This is the current program, which means the vet receives $100 for a male cat and $150 for a female cat. So we're not asking vets to reduce their prices to $75 per cat at all. That is the amount that the council contributes as a subsidy to the overall cost of the payment to vets.
Good to clear that up. Angie is referring to question 4. City of Darwin's proposal will include a request for a fee waiver of registration costs for that year's registration period, and microchipping will be covered by council. How does NDN suggest managing the risk of animal owners that may not be re-registered the following year? I have concerns over the regulation process of registration follow-up on unregistered animals.
So presumably after the first year, you've already desexed those animals, which means they're not breeding, which is fantastic. And so if you can't follow them up front the following year, at least they're not breeding. So that's the first step. The second step is following up the second year. I can't see how that would be any different from whether or not it was free or paid in the first year. You've still got to follow them up to get their payment for the second year, or have I misunderstood the question?
Drop a comment in the chat box, Angie, if you want to clarify that. But Leslie makes a comment, this is so relevant. Some councils don't understand the implications of some policy stances taken, and we would absolutely agree with that, Leslie. Jelena says, what would be recommended to deal with prolific cat hoarding issues? For example, we have a case of one woman feeding feral cats in a DHHS housing estate, which has led to uncontrolled breeding, significant health issues, inbreeding of the cats, and destruction of the flora and fauna in the area, as well as creating risks to other cats and domestic pets in the area. This is a common occurrence in Yarra, where people are overwhelmed by the cats and thinking they're helping. It's not possible to desex and rehome these cats as they are feral and not friendly to humans. So what is suggested in these kinds of situations?
Yeah, I do understand. I think every community has situations like this, and there's actually a very good presentation in the RSPCA Australia conference that was held last week on this topic, which you might be able to access through RSPCA Australia. It indicates that nearly 40% of people who end up in this cat hoarding situation are in fact rescuers, as you've indicated here. And I think the most important thing you can do, it is difficult if there are mental health issues, but the most important thing you can do is to persuade people to get these cats desexed. At least then they're not breeding. If you can then subsequently, obviously they're difficult to rehome, but desexing them is the most important thing, or this situation just continues to expand. And often people that do care about these cats will allow them to be taken to be desexed, whereas they won't want them taken to be euthanized.
And I think that some of the advice around dealing with hoarding issues is that you use a multi-pronged approach. So various different agencies coming together to formulate a strategy, because otherwise the basic issues of why the situation has occurred isn't going to be addressed. So Leslie makes the point that the term feral or category of feral cat is used more for those cats that are not reliant on humans at all and are living very independent lives, separate to humans, whereas the cats we're talking about are owned, semi-owned and unowned. And Sandra says the Moreland program is not currently on the site, but we'll reach out so it can be included. Thank you. That's fantastic, Sandra.
Oh, thanks, Sandra. That's great. And just in relation to, I did put feral once on my slide simply because a lot of councils use that term still for unowned cats in urban environments. And so, but we are working very hard with lots of organisations across Australia and including the Threatened Species Commissioner and so on, to actually clarify that feral cats are cats in remote areas that have no human support or contact, whereas domestic cats include owned, semi-owned, which people are feeding, may be owned or unowned, they don't know usually, and unowned cats who are either abandoned cats or cats people have had to leave them behind, or they bred in the wild from undersexed cats wandering around and breeding. And so we should start referring to them always as either owned or unowned cats, basically. And semi-owned cats may be owned or unowned. They may be the cat down the road who's just visiting regularly and likes 3 or 4 owners, or they may be an unowned cat who's desperately seeking support from somebody.
It's all very complex. But look, we should wrap up there. Thank you so much, Joy. That was a fantastic presentation. And I love how much everybody got involved with their questions. Stay tuned to our social media pages and e-news for announcements about future webinars in this series. And feel free to send us through suggestions for topics or presenters that you'd like to see featured. If you have further questions for Joy, you can always email her or email us or message us, and we'll put you in contact with Joy. Take care, everybody. We'll see you at the next one. Thank you so much. Have a good afternoon.
Thanks, everyone. Fantastic conversation. Love it. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.